Hey guys, welcome to VG Lore, the best place for video game lore and stories. Today we're going to be doing a video on a specific character from a series. When I was thinking about what would be the best character to do a video on, I kept coming back to this one because I think they're a great example of great character writing, and I want us to explore into the backstory of this character. I'm talking about one of the most popular characters to come out of game developers Valve, Portal's very own GLaDOS. GLaDOS is the main antagonist of the Portal series. It is an artificial intelligence in charge of overseeing central system functions at Aperture Science's Enrichment Center. The name GLaDOS is actually an acronym that stands for Genetic Life Form and Disk Operating System. What really interests me about GLaDOS is how impressive it is that it has grown to become such a popular and lovable character, despite having traits that would normally hinder a character's lovability, like the fact that it's a villain, the type of character you're supposed to dislike, and that GLaDOS is essentially a robot, and in the past, robots have never really had an easy time at being a likeable character. Regardless of that, GLaDOS has managed to touch the hearts of gamers across the world. Anyway, enough about that, let's talk about its origins. So we don't really know when the original idea that would eventually become GLaDOS was actually conceived, but what we do know is that it didn't really take off until about 1982, when the GLaDOS project was going full swing. The idea about the project was to have a fully functioning advanced AI system, using the consciousness of a living host. This host was originally intended to be the CEO of Aperture Science, Cave Johnson. But unfortunately, Johnson died due to overexposure to moon dust that he had been testing on to further the applications of his mobility gel invention. This caused his kidneys to shut down and slowly destroy his lungs. Before his death, Cave had left instructions for his assistant Carolyn, to whom he had a close relationship with and trusted to run the company after his death, to be inserted as the host consciousness for the GLaDOS project. Whether she agreed to this or not is unclear, but it is achieved regardless, and thus, GLaDOS was born. As a precaution, the scientists at Aperture Science implemented the red phone failsafe, in which an employee would sit by a red phone at the entrance to GLaDOS' housing chamber and would be required to inform scientists if it were to ever become sentient and dangerous. Their concern turned out to be correct, after several attempts to activate GLaDOS immediately caused it to attempt to murder employees, and in an attempt to alter GLaDOS' personality and quell its homicidal tendencies, the various personality cores were created. These cores were designed to interact with GLaDOS' personality by integrating with it and nullifying the undesired traits. Many were created to achieve this effect, of which a lot were removed and scrapped, but a select few remained attached to GLaDOS. Some of the cores created were as follows. The Morality Core. Built and attached to GLaDOS after a terrible incident at Aperture Science on their first annual Bring Your Daughter to Work Day. It is unknown what transpired on that day, but shortly after, the Morality Core was fitted to GLaDOS in order to suppress its murderous tendencies. The Intelligence Dampening Core, or more popularly known as WHEATLEY. It was built and attached to GLaDOS in order to feed it with a constant stream of poor ideas so as to delay or stop unpredictable actions. It was later removed and repurposed to do various other jobs around the Enrichment Center. The Intelligence Core. Little is known about the purpose of this core, but it is believed to have become defective while still attached to GLaDOS, creating a bizarre obsession with cake. The Curiosity Core. Again, little is known about the purpose of this core, but it appears to have a sense of inquisitiveness about everything. The Anger Core. Yet another core to which its purpose is unknown, but it appears to be programmed to simulate pure rage. Why this would be attached to GLaDOS is unclear, but its removal causes GLaDOS to lose all indications of hostility, leading me to believe that this core became corrupted whilst attached to GLaDOS. Later that year, following the attachment of the personality cores, GLaDOS claimed to have lost all interest in killing, and they only had desire for science and testing. It convinced the Aperture scientists to allow it to perform an experiment during the upcoming Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, involving cats, boxes, and a small amount of neurotoxin. The scientists agreed to this, figuring it would be fine as long as it was for science. Much to their own naivety, they were wrong. As agreed upon, the scientists activated GLaDOS as part of the event, and within milliseconds, GLaDOS locked down the entire facility and filled it with deadly neurotoxin, killing everyone inside. Now in control of Aperture Science, GLaDOS decided to begin a permanent testing cycle on the remaining captured Aperture Science employees, in hopes of developing Portal technology before their competitors at Black Mesa, a science race in which GLaDOS eventually loses, causing it to abandon the experiments and return to mandatory testing. Mandatory testing requires that subjects complete a series of puzzles requiring the use of portal technology. It is here where we reach the events of Portal. Many years after the Enrichment Center massacre, GLaDOS, as part of its mandatory testing, wakes a test subject named CHELL. She is one of the daughters of a scientist from the Bring Your Daughter to Work event years ago. She was never meant to be submitted for testing due to her psychological profile claiming she was too determined and stubborn for testing. But due to an intervention from an Aperture programmer named Doug Ratman, who tampered with the test subject list, allowed CHELL to be tested, in the hopes that she could escape, or maybe even shut down GLaDOS. This alteration goes unnoticed by GLaDOS and it begins testing on CHELL. During the testing process, it provides CHELL with motivation and encouragement in order to keep test progress going, and GLaDOS even creates the illusion that it is merely an automated response program and that it is not in fact sentient. But it cannot resist its own psychotic tendencies and begins to occasionally mocking CHELL and toying with her. Eventually, CHELL reaches the end of the final test chamber, of which GLaDOS had promised CHELL with cake. But it is here where we discover that in fact, the cake is a lie, and GLaDOS then attempts to incinerate CHELL like all test subjects before her. She manages to escape through the use of the portal gun, much to the surprise of GLaDOS, and from here she makes her way towards the central AI chamber, towards GLaDOS. GLaDOS attempts to convince CHELL to return to the testing chamber, which it is ignored, and following each attempt, GLaDOS gets increasingly more desperate to prevent CHELL from reaching her chamber, deploying sentry turrets to kill her. Once CHELL arrives at GLaDOS' chamber, it removes its disguise as an automated response system and reveals its true nature, exclaiming that it intends to kill CHELL, if it hadn't been apparent until now. Moments before it attempts to kill her, the morality core is dislodged from GLaDOS. Aware that the core is suppressing its normal functions, it uses reverse psychology to trick CHELL into incinerating it, claiming that it is of no importance or relevance, and that CHELL should just ignore it. Of course, as part of CHELL's nature, she does the exact opposite and destroys the morality core, which was part of GLaDOS' plan all along. Now free of the morality core's restraints, GLaDOS begins flooding the Enrichment Center with neurotoxin. As a result of the morality core's removal, GLaDOS loses control of the rocket sentry in the chamber that begins firing at CHELL. She uses this to her advantage and uses the missiles to damage GLaDOS. More of the personality cores begin falling from its body, after which CHELL immediately incinerates them. GLaDOS' mental functions begin to deteriorate until the final personality core is destroyed, after which it begins to malfunction, causing a giant portal to appear on the ceiling, pulling the remaining parts of GLaDOS and CHELL out of the chamber and outside of the Enrichment Center, seemingly eliminating GLaDOS. Before CHELL can escape, a party escort robot retrieves and returns her back inside. It is here that we learn GLaDOS survived, and that her backup system was booted and immediately began activating personality cores inside a warehouse. Right at its center was a cake. We're going to end the video for today, but in the next one we're going to dive right into the events that occurred during Portal 2, specifically from GLaDOS' perspective. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the subscribe button for more, and be sure to check out my other videos, like this one here that covers the Metal Gear series. Until next time, I'll see you later.